everybody. Zach Miller, one of the legal instructors at Blue to Gold. I've got a question here from Taylor Dunlap from the Licking County Sheriff's Office in Ohio, and we'll see if we can get him an answer. He wants to know about the use of his overhead red and blue lights on his vehicle, his patrol vehicle, and whether that use constitutes a seizure of a person who's walking down the roadway. Apparently, Taylor had a drug possession case that was recently dismissed by the prosecutor because of this red and blue light issue. He's patrolling one evening late at night. He works in a rural area, and he sees a gentleman jogging down the middle of the roadway. So the deputy turns around, activates his emergency equipment on his vehicle, and the jogger stops in response to those lights. After a brief interaction with the jogger, the deputy determines he has an outstanding arrest warrant. The jogger is arrested, and a search incident to that arrest leads to the discovery of a small amount of fentanyl. Well, the prosecutor declines to proceed with the case, alleging that the use of the red and blue lights was a seizure of the jogger, and the deputy, did not have a lawful basis for conducting that seizure. To get to the core of your question, Taylor, a seizure of a person under the Fourth Amendment occurs in one of two ways. Either one will work. A person either submits to your show of authority, or a seizure can occur when an officer intentionally applies force to a person and with the intent to restrain that person. In this scenario, we're dealing with the former, the show of authority issue. So what we're looking for, the test that we're going to use is, would a reasonable person believe that whatever the officer has done, in this case the flashing red and blue lights, signals a demand on the part of the officer where compliance is required, or the officer is simply requesting or asking for a person's cooperation. The flashing red and blue lights, when you look up in your rearview mirror and see those, or you're walking down the street and you see them behind you, to me that's the quintessential signal that compliance is required. It's not optional. You must pull over or stop and interact with the officer for a brief period of time. Otherwise, you could face legal consequences for refusing to do so. So there's no question about it that when you activate your red and blue lights to a pedestrian or a person driving a vehicle behind them, that's a signal to them that they must submit to your show of authority. They must comply and otherwise face legal consequences. Now, that's just the threshold question. Is it a seizure? Yes, it is a seizure of the person. The next question we look at is, was the seizure reasonable? And what makes the seizure of a person reasonable is the existence of at least reasonable suspicion to believe this person is currently involved in unlawful activity, or was recently involved, or is about to be involved in unlawful activity. Now, I'm certainly not an expert on Ohio statutory law, but it seems to me that I would imagine in several states that it would be a violation of some traffic code section or a county or city ordinance to run down the middle of the roadway, especially late at night. But I'll defer to the experts on Ohio statutory law for that point. Anyway, Taylor, I think that answers your question. Hopefully you found it helpful. And everyone else who's listening. There's a couple of other issues we could actually dive into with this scenario. We could talk about the attenuation doctrine here, which is an exception to the exclusionary rule, but we'll save that for a different day. Be safe out there, everyone, and we'll see you at the next roadside chat.